Hello, everyone, and welcome back to WOR with me, Nathan Richards, and alongside me is Sappy. I've just noticed that Sappy's not appearing on the screen, so this isn't an ideal start. I've been having issues with the game all day, and now this. There we go. We're on. Hello, Sappy. We can now see you. Welcome in.
Hello, I'm alive. Good to see that I got retrieved from the Shadow Realm. Um, it's good to be here. Hopefully, that's the last of the hiccups.
Also, I've noticed you got some issues with your mic, so you're cutting out. But we're here, and that's all that matters mostly. We're here for round 8 of the championship here at Bahrain, which is going to be a great race, I think. We've not got Harvey Cohen here again, missing out for the second time in a row, so this gives Yannick Schmidt more and more of an advantage going into this race, and also it can help Cameron Dowd, and also I believe it was Daniel Yeltsin who's involved in this fight. He's racing today, so it's possible that Daniel can get through on Harvey. It's also possible that Cameron can, but obviously Cameron and Daniel will most likely need to get a win or just some very, very good points in this race. So Yannick Schmidt, as long as he can score points, he's going to be extending that championship lead no matter what, because no one's going to get close to him, I don't think. He's at 15 points ahead of Harvey. And we'll have a little quick look at the standings, and we can see on the screen. So Yannick Schmidt obviously having one race win of the season, leading the championship by 15 points. Really, really good. Harvey and Daniel, the only drivers to have 2 race wins. So if Daniel was to win the race today, he'd be the only driver so far this season to get 3 wins of the season, which would be really nice considering he's got a DNF. A 3rd place so far is not too bad in the championship. But look further down, Corey the backup still not able to score any points. 6 out of 7 races has resulted in a DNF, so he's got a lot of work to do today. And actually, looking at the sheet, I don't think he is racing today, unfortunately, which is a big shame. So Cornet still yet to score some points, which is a big shame. And so we look at the constructor standings. There we are. We can see LP was leading over 15 points, but Cameron Dowd's got a 5-second penalty for an illegal overtake, which I believe was on the last lap. So it lost him some points. He dropped down to 10th, meaning now Alpine only lead by 3 points, 118 to 150. And we look down at the bottom, Mercedes still only on 4 points. And with none of their main drivers driving today, Mercedes aren't going to increase their points at all and will be sticking at 4 because Kevin and the Lethal Sniper will be taking the place of Sergio and Lars. So, Sappy, looking at the championship, who do you think has a good chance of winning it now? I think it's pretty obvious, but have you got anyone else you think could take it away?
I don't know. It's tough to call just because, of course, you have Yannick Schmidt, and right now they are in the position to fully extend their lead. But you've got the likes of Kjeldsen and Dowds, who are going to be really pushing. They're going to be seizing that opportunity just as much as Schmidt had in the race prior. So I think that Schmidt has a very strong position to play from, but don't sleep on Gjelsen, especially considering that in terms of consistent performances, these top 3, top 4 have all scored points. They've
Yeah.
all absolutely bring the heat. In the case of Yeltsin, especially, 2 wins, 2 P3s, not one to be trifled with.
Hmm.
On his day, he's unstoppable.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's if you can get someone like Yannick Schmidt leading the race at the start, I think he's going to pull it away. I think it's very easy for him to do so. If he can burn his ERS, maybe take a softer compender tire at the start, play that ultimate strategy, that can really help, and that could help him get a win. If he wins this now, I think we can possibly say the championship might be over, or at least close to being over.
Yeah, very close. I think with a few rounds to go, not to mention Saudi Arabia does have a
Hmm.
sprint, so that's 8 more points in
Yeah,
the pipeline. But you'd be very sort of surprised to see anything but these top sort of 4 drivers
yeah.
getting the win at this stage. We can very easily narrow it down.
Yes, definitely. And I think I would probably say now I think Yannick Schmidt's going to do it, but I don't want to put my answer just yet because 2 races. If Yannick was to win after the next 2 races, and Cameron or Yelson was to win, that will put them ahead. So you can't really call it too early, but you'll always have that inkling of what you think might happen. And before we get into the session, I've actually got one fun fact about Bahrain. So in 2007, Kimi Räikkönen, Lewis Hamilton, and Fernando Alonso were all drawn on points going into after the Bahrain Grand Prix. The last time that happened before that was 1950 at the Indianapolis 500 Grand Prix, which is I saw that because I was looking through and I thought, oh, let's have a look at interesting facts about the track, and I thought that one caught my eye. I thought that's amazing, isn't it? So
Crazy
weird.
to think.
Nearly as good as the what was it now? I can't remember. Was it Belgium maybe or Spa or something when 3 of the drivers, Michael Schumacher, um, was it Harold Frentzen and someone else? They all had the same quality time, didn't they? The 3 of them at the top.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so I was thinking, say Schumacher, Frentzen, and oh, that's really going to bug me now. That's really
I
going to
need to.
bug
I'm
me.
searching it up. I need to find out. Oh, was it?
want to say I want to say Villeneuve, but I may be getting my
It
wires
might. It
crossed.
might be Villeneuve actually. Let's have a look. We're nearly getting started. Waiting for one more drive to get into the lobby because we've got 19 in.
Oh, I say while doing that, can maybe talk a little bit about the track while we're looking for that.
Yes, we can. Let's get it up. There we
Yes.
are.
All right, well, taking a look at the track, as a Sakir Grand Prix, Bahrain, it's quite a high-speed circuit overall. You've got 3 DRS zones, and you've got a lot of high speed, a lot of lateral grip that your car needs, a lot of downforce, relatively high wings, but not too much to compromise the massive straight stretching 3 sides of the circuit. So, of course, you've got the 2 straights either side of the start finish line and the start finish straight itself. A lot of overtaking, but especially given that DRS zone 3 on the start finish leads straight to the first one coming out of turn 3. You gotta have to play your strategic cards right. It's a game of cat and mouse on this track more than it is anything else.
Yes, definitely. It's a really difficult track, and I think it definitely tests the driver's capabilities because you've got turn 1 and 2, you've got to brake hard into the hairpin, you've got to be careful not to lock up and go straight on. And then coming out of turn 1, you've got turn 2, you've got to be really careful with your throttle, you've got to really feather it through, otherwise you're just going to go around. Into turn 4, pretty simple corner. The exit, you've got to be a bit careful because it goes off camber, then back on camber. Through 5, 6, and 7, you've got to be really careful because it's downhill, chicane. You can easily lose the rear on the curb as you come out of 7 as you head into 8. Turn 8, it's not too difficult. It's a bit like a standard chicane, a standard hairpin. Then you have turns 9 and 10, which I would say is 2 of the most unique corners in F1 in ever because it's such a really weird braking zone. You've got to turn in, but you've also got to make sure you can try and brake straight so you don't lock up. Because if you turn and brake, you're just going to lock up. So you're going to try and brake straight, but then also turn in as soon as possible to get the nice rotation into the corner. Into 11, not too bad. Turn 12, you've got the killer curb, which we all know and hate. 13, yet again, you're going to try and carry a lot of speed through. You've got to be careful not to invalidate and hit the curb on the exit. Then going down into 14 and 15. I don't class 15 as a corner, but it seems that F1 want to do. So, yeah, it's a really difficult track. But yet again, if you're good at it, it really helps because it's got a very big skill gap, I think, sometimes in terms of lower level to top level drivers.
I think the big pacemakers are going to be just after turn 3 with the first DRS zone, and then turns 5 through 7. Because if you
Yeah.
can carry a lot of speed there, you really set yourself up for the third
Hmm.
sector. I think turn 10 might possibly be. I wouldn't say it's the most unique corner because we do have things like Zandvoort, and of course that banking is so iconic at this stage. I would say that turn 10 Bahrain is the most difficult corner, or at least combined with turn 9, it's the most difficult little set of corners on the calendar because as you said it's such a weird challenge. You've got to
Yeah,
turn but you've got to brake, but of course braking takes away your grip from turning, so it's finding
yeah,
that balance and finding it well considering you're also on a downhill trying to carefully manage the car on this precipice of grip. I would say that it really is one of the most difficult.
definitely. And I have to agree. Fernando Alonso obviously on Sunday proved that in his case it's not too difficult. As he took Hamilton up the inside, went to go around the outside, then shot up the inside. Still don't know how he made that move. It was ridiculous. And to see an Aston Martin overtake a Mercedes was something I didn't expect to see this year. But it's F1, and maybe we'll see Aston Martin's overtake a Mercedes here at Bahrain. And Cameron Dowd, a bit of a fact, he is here. Unfortunately, got hit by a vehicle this afternoon. So, well, I believe it's this afternoon. So, unfortunately, he's in a bit of pain. I think he's done something to his right knee. But he's still racing, so he's literally becoming Lance Stroll. He's going to enter the race with an injured body part. So, obviously, wishing him well, and hopefully he can recover quickly. So, I wouldn't say we expect too much from him today, being as he's, driving with half a leg, basically.
Trust trust the drivers at this sort of caliber, at this tier, to say, you know what, I may have just been hit by a vehicle, but I still got a race tonight.
Exactly. That's how you got to think. These guys are all looking to get into esports one day, and I think nearly every one of them in here can do it. So, sometimes you just gotta go for it. If even if he's obviously his legs falling off, that's obviously a different story. But you know what I mean. If he's in a bit of pain, you still got to push for it because you got to take every opportunity you can. He said, "Oh, it was Saturday. Got hit by a Jaguar." Well, at least if you're gonna get hit, at least you've been hit in style. That's one thing to say. He said,
Yeah, I guess there is that, and
the
I
left
mean, I would
leg.
like to preface it with be careful out there.
True.
Road safety is no joke, but and yeah, he's still racing. Ogiano's out 1st, but is going to yield. I think that's to Leroy Brown. Not sure why
is
though,
Leroy Brown.
considering that they would have the command of the track. So to dip behind another car might prove a little bit problematic for your racing pace, and especially here in quali, you need the pace above all else.
Yes, definitely. You need good quality pace around here. I know Kevin put a video in the chat earlier. He managed a 27 flat in a Grand Prix mode session, which is 0.3 off esports pace. I believe that Lucas Blake is set at 26.7 or 26.8, one of the two, in esports. So that's a really good lap from Kevin. If he can wrap it up here, I think that's pole pretty much secured. But obviously, last season we was at Bahrain. It was round 2 of the season, and the top 3 was Jeffrey Ritchie, Daniel Yeltsin, and Harlan Marquis. And 2 of the podium cities are here today, which is Daniel and Harlan. So, yeah, obviously they've done well here before, obviously getting podiums, so they're going to have to try and do it again. And Leroy Brown will be the first driver to set a lap. We're going to go on board with him now as he heads down towards turn 1 in the Red Bull. Obviously, beginner as a reserve, but obviously moved into a Red Bull seat full-time at the, I think, round 3 of the season. He's now coming through, turn through into 3. You can see feather in the throttle. He comes out of turn 1. You've got to be really careful. Now he's going to be charging up with the DRS into turn 4. He's got a brake late, not do a Fernando Alonso and end up hitting the curb and spinning. Doesn't do so. And he's now going to have to carry the speed all the way through in towards 5, 6, and 7. You're going to hop the curb. Try not to use too much curb, but you've got to use some for a bit of rotation. Don't take too much into 7, now into turn 8. You can see he took a waddle on the entry to get a nice apex, and now he's going to be charging up towards turn 9 and 10. He's got to try and brake straight, but also turn in. You can see brake straight, hits the curb, turns in towards turn 10. Very nice, bit of curb for rotation on the entry. Now he's going to be charging now with the DRS yet again. The DRS zone 2 as he charges down towards the final sector into turn 11. Brakes just at the 50 metre. Hits the curb on entry, just for a little bit of rotation, then carries it round wide so you can get a nice entrance into turn 12. You're going to hit a little bit of curb, takes a lot of curb there. And now in towards turn 13, hits a nice little bit of curb again, rides the curb on the exit, and now going to charge all the way down in towards 14 and 15. Obviously took a purple sector 2, but I believe that got taken away by someone else. Into turn 14 and 15 now, you can see hops the curb slightly, rides the curb all the way down the exit, the corner. And he's going to charge up to the line. What time does Leroy Brown set? It will be a 27.529.
That's a real solid opener from Leroy Brown. Ogiano only manages a 0.689 as Andre Molnar comes with a 127.5 flat. Are we going to see that be dethroned in any form? Yeltsin comes across the line. It's 27.655. Not going to make it up. Saucer, 27.874, goes fifth fastest. Next, Alfa Romeo, Bogdan Moldovan. Going to be enough for P6, 28.1. Going to need a bit of improvement. Tycho Hardy, 27.571. Top runners being separated by just a few tenths. Dowds, with a 0.511, is going to put himself in P2. And Harlem Marquise, with a 27.262, is going to currently hold the top.
That's a really nice lap from Harlem for a banker lap of 27.2. Really, really nice. Kevin obviously putting himself into second. Yannick Schmidt now into second with a 27.407. We're on board with Jan Halliday. Purple set to 2 with a 105.867 split. He's now coming out of turn 13. He'll be looking to set his lap in the Williams car. And he's just coming out down the final straight into turn 14 and 15. Obviously, Cameron Dowd and Andre Molnar. Very nice laps from those two. And also that's Sam Lekomsky and Tygo Hardy into 7th and 8th with the Afteris. And Jan Halliday up to the line goes 4th fastest with a 27.493. Tom Martinez now just coming down into turn 4. I believe he is on his first lap. Let's have a little watch of him in the Ferrari. Obviously, Tom not able to score any points this season so far, I believe. So really, really poor season from him so far. 28.563 in that first sector. Not quite sure if that is representable or if he's on an outlap, but we'll keep on board with him just for now as he's charged out turn 8, now coming in towards turn 9 and 10.
Yeah, as we watch on board and say those sector differences are going to make a lot of impact, not even just on the sector you're in, but you'll see that timer come up and you'll get that little bit of doubt in the back of your mind. It's like, can I make this lap? And as soon as that doubt comes in, it's all too easy to throw the lap, just not feel that same level of confidence that you otherwise would. Let's see what they come through on the Sector 2 trap and see what kind of time they're pulling out. That's going to be a 0.6.521. So I think that's roughly on par for Sector 2 times. And despite being a couple of tenths down on the first sector, we're going to see if there's any improvement in the final sector. Guns it across, no squirreliness from that F175 whatsoever. You hear the turbo spooling. It's across the line. It's going to be good enough for a 28.151. Not quite going to be there. And it looks like just that big time loss on the first sector is really what killed the lap there. Because Sector 3 was looking good. Within a tenth, the fastest.
Yes, really nice in that final set for Tom Martinez. Obviously, 28-1. That's not where he wants to be. Look in the chat. Nicholas Longo says, Harlem, my goat. Yeah, Harlem, really great there. 2 tenths ahead. Well, 1.5 tenths ahead of the field so far with a 27.262. Obviously, got third here last season in Tier 2. So obviously he wants to replicate that again and maybe try and get a second or first. But we're on board with Jona Martins now, who's coming in towards turn 1 and turn 2. Bit of a deep entry to turn 1, but doesn't compromise him too much out of turn 2 and 3. Now going to be charging down towards turn 4 with the DRS open. Shuts the DRS as he breaks into the 4th corner. We're going to go on board with him. There we go. As he charges out, turn 5 rides a curve on the exit of 4. Now charging towards 6 and 5, 6 and 7. And you can see, oh, missing that apex there. Not too ideal. So that's not what he wants. So it looks like the car looks really, really understeery, which is not that good. But then again, that could be how he likes it. Now he charges in towards turns 9 and 10. You can see taking a nice wide line to break straight. Barely hit the curb, then turning towards turn 10. Very nice rise, a little bit of curb on the exits. And now he's going to be charging down towards turn 11 and 12 with the DRS open, of course. Brakes at just the 50-metre board, swoops it in, barely hits the curb, then wants to hit a ton, a little bit of apex on the exit. Oh, but has a bit of a slide coming out of turn 11 now, and he charges into turn 12, hopping that curb completely as he comes into 13, invalidates on the exit 12. You can see just over that white line for Jona. Really, really poor from him there. But obviously, he'll be able to have another run. It's still got 10 minutes left of the session. But Baz Palmer is also on a lap.
Let's see how the Haas does here. And really, the aim you've got to be looking for, 28.1 is your Sector 1A. That's where Harlem currently sits with a 28.118. So that best first sector also holds the record for Sector 3 with a 21.507. How are they going to do? 28.279. So it's about a tenth and a half off so far. Can they reclaim that time through the second sector? So running it nice and deep, using a little bit of the curb, bit too much as they just about missed the apex. Now watch the throttle on the Haas here. Notice how early they're quickly trying to get on the throttle again. As soon as that brake is disengaged, they're back on the throttle. That's to keep the car moving, power out the corner, and make sure that the differentials of the car are putting in work to keep the thing rotating. Because if you're coasting, then it's all too easy to coast right ahead and not actually get your car turned in. And we're about 1.06, 1.16.029. So looking good. Looks like they have made a strong improvement through the second sector. Anyway, down out of turn 13, holds it clean. Turns 14 and 15 coming through now. Nice and deep on the curbs. Just showing of the apex there, but it's doing validation on the final corner. Just a little bit too wide, and that's Ballas Palmer down into the pits.
Yeah, really big shame from Ballas. His time wasn't looking too bad, but now we're on board with Lethal Sniper. Or Lethal Sniper, I'm not quite sure how to say that. I don't think he's made an appearance yet in WRT2, so it's going to be his first appearance so far, but he's going to be in the Mercedes car. Let's hope it doesn't replicate the IRL Mercedes, otherwise it won't be the best. But he's now coming through into turn 6 and 7, 28.313 in that first sector. Harlan Marcus also on an outlap now, and Yannick and Kevin also on laps. So we'll switch to them in a little bit, but we're going to stay on board with Lethal Sniper as he comes through. In towards turn 9 and 10 now. Let's see, how does he brake? So he brakes straight, and you can see, really eager to get on that throttle. He gets on the throttle before he even finishes braking. That's how eager these drivers are to get onto the throttle out of turn 10, so they can get really nice speed going down in towards 11 now. And you can see, brakes yet again just before the 50-metre board as he chucks it in. Got to be careful not to touch too much curb here. It's basically every curb from turn 11 onwards now into 13 can be a little bit of a lethal curb. So you've got to be quite careful. 106.136 in that middle sector split. You can see got a little bit wide there. Riding the curb as he comes out of 13 now. Going to be charging down the final straight as he heads in towards turn 14 and 15. Brakes yet again just after the 100-metre board. Sweeps it in very nicely up to 5th, and you can see riding the curb like every other driver has done here. And he comes up towards the line. Where does the Lethal Sniper go? Up to P15, so not the best lap, but he's still got another run to go. We've got 7 minutes left of this session. We're going to have a little look at the top 3, as we've got Kevin and Yannick. Yannick's actually on the lap now. He's just coming through in towards the end of that middle sector. He's up by a 10th and a half, I believe, in that first sector, if I read that correctly. Hops the curb completely in turn 11, a bit different line to what the other drivers have done. And he's now going to charge through in towards turn 11, hops the curb completely again, so he's got a lot of ride height on this car and able to take so much of the curb, and he's up by a 10th and a half nearly in that middle sector as well. So let's see, can Yannick put himself onto that provisional pole position? Currently looking good enough for a P2, but he wants to get that provisional pole, because who wouldn't? As he comes out the final corner now, you can see Ronda comes in, validates on the exit. Big shame for Yannick. Was looking to possibly take P2 or P1, but it's all over from that invalidation. Kevin, a second down in that middle sector. Harlan Marquis beginning his first second flying up. Now he's up by, I think it was 400 in that first sector. He's now charging down in towards turn 8. Hopping the curb, you can see these drivers are going to take so much curb for rotation. That's the key. You don't want to take too much, but you're going to take enough just so you can get a nice bit of rotation going into these high-speed, mid-speed corners. You can see coming out of turn 10, very nice riding the curb a little bit on the exit. He's now going to be charging down towards the end of sector 2. Does he improve in this middle sector? We'll see as he comes through in towards turn 11 now. On board, you can see it shift down to 5th, wants to avoid the curb on the entry, avoid the curb on the exit, but just not be able to just put a lot of power down. As he swoops into 12, you can see it taking a lot of curb there, a bit cautious, up by 74 hundredths of a second now, 74,000, sorry, of a second. That puts him on the purple middle sector. Good enough to put him on a 27.1. Remember, esports was a 26.8, so only 4 tenths off that so far. As he comes into the final corner now, what time can Harlan Marquis set? Rides the curb on the exit, doesn't invalidate, up towards the line. Where does he go? Improves to 127, 195, lost a little bit of time in that final sector. I believe that would have been down at turn 14. Simon Lekomsky into P5. Jan Halliday still in P6. We're going board of Jan as he's coming through, and he's not on lap actually, so we'll switch off him. Leroy Brown goes quickest with a 27.191.
That's a 1-2 Red Bull. I'm getting a bit of deja vu here. I don't know about you. If nothing else, you look at some of these drivers, look at some of the times. There's one big thing that you notice with the track limits. They're not so much being careful of the curbs as they are being careful of the curbs when on the power, because any part of the track inside, as long as keep part of the car on the inside of the white lines, the track is free real estate besides that. So you see drivers extending onto the curbs, really trying to maximize that gap, but it's that fine balance between using the curbs versus abusing them and losing time. Because even if you get a wider arc, if you cannot get on the power, then you are losing a lot of time. If not in the immediate corner, then certainly in the corners after.
Exactly. And that's the same, like, if you was to... Oh, Taka Hardy up by a 10th that first sector. If you was to mess up in turn 1, going into turn 2 and 3, you'd mess up completely. Then that'd mean you'd have lower speed going all the way up into turn 4. So that's your first set to completely ruin by just ruining one corner. Whereas in some tracks, you can ruin one corner and then pay it back as you go through the rest of the sector. Tycho already gone for a bit of a weird line there, coming out of turn 10, completely missed that apex on the inside. But we're saying boarded him as he's coming through in towards turn 11 now, currently in P11. Mark Truter up into 10th position with the 27.515. Tycho already just 600ths behind him. And he should be able to improve as he comes in towards turn 12 now. Where does Tycho Hardy improve in these middle sector? He doesn't. He's 7/10 down, so he must have let off that lap there.
And I think he lost control ever so slightly coming out of turn 8, so it might have been a case of just abandoning the lap.
But everyone into the pit lane now. And no, Lethal Sniper is heading out of the pit lane in his Mercedes to set another lap. Currently on a 27.860, so not where he wants to be, but the top, that's the top 17, top 19 actually, separated by 8.5 tenths. Really, really nice. You can see that mid-pack, P4 to P13, that's 2 tenths. So really, really close around here. But then again, we've seen a couple of drivers mess up them, haven't we, on their runs, getting a bit of damage. So, they need to make sure they can limitate that damage in the session, in the race. If you're hitting the track limits 2 or 3 times in a race, that's got you a penalty. Once you got a penalty, you could, for all you could lose 5 or 6 positions, because I expect there to be a long DRS train, near the end of the race. If you have safety cars, that would drop you from first all the way down to 20th or something. So, you've got to make sure these drivers aren't extending the track in the race. And also, sometimes you can extend the track and it doesn't give you a warning. So that can also put drivers at risk, because if someone notices that and reports it, well, that would also be a possible extra penalty. So you've got to be very careful, but you've also got to be wanting to push as well. So we could see drivers take different strategies. Some might want to be a bit more careful, sit back, and some might just go full, completely go for it. But we're going to go on board with Lethal Sniper now as he begins his final lap of this qualifying session.
Well, we've got 2 minutes 30 left in the quali session now, so people are running out of time. Lethal Sniper's gone in a really bad time, because look at that massive queue coming out of the pits. He's just about going to be able to dodge that. It's going to be very lucky in finding a bit of a pocket on the track, even when everyone else is coming out. They've got a fair bit of mileage ahead of them between themselves, and that is, I believe, the Williams of, is that JST? I believe that might be. But that is going to be a bit of a tricky situation. The Sniper gets around the Williams, but is going to be quickly chasing down the AlphaTauri. Now, realistically, he only has one chance to improve. So he's got to make the most of this. And so firing it down into turn 10, fully on the brakes. Lethal Sniper, it's a little bit of an interesting tactic. Gets on the brakes and simultaneously on the accelerator. So they keep the car gripped up, but still slowing down in a controlled manner. Really just dives the nose in, depending on the brake bias they're running. That could be a great move to try and set up some rotation in the car. But you see going a little bit deep into the curbs there on the inside, coming out turn 13 now, very close to the edge, taking all of the curb and then some, but seeing if they can make an improvement. They are slightly up here. They are on the board for an improvement, but is it going to be enough an improvement to call it jump in position? Let's see. Lethal Sniper coming across the line. It's going to be up to P14 with a 0.687.
I'll be honest, looking at that, I thought he was off the track there coming out at 13, but obviously I'm wrong. We're going to Harlan Marquis. Oh no, he's not. So it's lying to me again. It says on an 8 lap, but they're actually still... No, it says on an 8, but they're still actually coming down turn 14. But let us know in the chat, who do you think will get pole? I'm going to say Yannick Schmidt. Sappy, who are you going to say?
I think it's going to be... I don't know. I think Leroy might just have it. We haven't seen any significant gains around the rest of the field, so I think Leroy has pole.
Yannick coming into turn 10 now, bit wide, but he was up by a 1/10.5 in that first sector. So you've got to hope that turn 10 didn't compromise his lap time too much. He's coming down now into turn 11. Yannick Schmidt obviously leading the championship by 15 points. As of now, no one ahead of him will be able to pressure him in terms of the championship, so he doesn't have to worry too much. Andre Mornart out the session in the pit lane. Does Yannick improve? He's up by 2.5 tenths now in that middle set, so this is looking really, really good for Yannick Schmidt. He's coming out at turn 13, rides the curb as he heads now down in towards the final couple of corners, turn 14 and 15. He's got to hook this up correctly, which it looks like he's going to do. Hop scope a little bit on the exit. You've got to drive it away. Invalidated here this time. Not this time. Head up towards the line. Where does Yannick go? Does he take pole? Yes, he does a 27.060. Leroy Brown also on a lap now. And Kevin and Harlan. We'll go on board with Kevin. He's just ahead of Leroy Brown as they're heading towards turn 11 now. Kevin on a 27.343. He's got to get 3/10 to improve. Simon Lekomsky goes up to 4th at 27.233. Cameron Dowd stays 7th at 27.478. Jona Martin's out of the session. Down, I believe he's retired on track. Down at turn 8. And that's also Daniel Yelton into that top 5. Kevin getting a bit of a slipstream from his teammate there as he heads into the final couple of corners. Where can Kevin go? Into turn 14 and 15 now. He's got to make it right here as he goes all the way up to the line. Tycho Hardy also at the session. Up to the line, Kevin goes up to 5th fastest. And Leroy Brandon Harlem now. And that's Leroy. Doesn't improve. Does Harlem improve? He's up by 200ths of a second in that middle sector. Is that enough to get through on Leroy Brown? Up towards the line now and he pits. And that's qualifying over. Yannick Schmidt on pole, followed by Leroy, Harlem, Simon and Kevin for that top 5.
They really pulled it out in the end there. Yannick Schmidt, just I'm not sure what we saw there, but it's almost like the demon came alive in the final fleeting moments of quali there. Just hooking it up, or it can only be described as a perfect lap from this standpoint. Didn't put a foot wrong, put it to the absolute edge by millimeters. I say that's a pole well earned.
Yeah, very, very nice. Really, really good lap there from Yannick. Obviously, championship leader. That is the type of laps he wants to be pulling out 1.5 tenths ahead of Leroy Brown. And then his teammate, just 4,000, behind him with the 27.195. And 4th is Simon Lekomsky, followed by Kevin, Gian Pietro Giano, Daniel Yelson, Jan Hardy, Cameron Dowds, and Andrew Marna. Takes out the top 10. Then the rest of the grid, we've got Mark Schluter, JSD, Tony Richey, Tycho Hardy, Tom Martinez, Jona Martins, the Lethal Sniper, Bogdan Moldovan, Ballas Palmer, and finally in 20th, Philip Sousa. So not a good day for the McLaren pair. Obviously, second in the championship, but starting 16th and 20th. So they're getting a bit of reminiscence from the IRL McLaren team from the, last Sunday in the real Bahrain Grand Prix. But really, really nice for Yannick. Good for Aston Martin. Good for Red Bull as well. Obviously, 2nd and 3rd. So they've just got to try and convert this now into some good points and good results.
And you've got, of course, some shouts as well to the Alpine team because they also got some very good positions here. All right, so as we load into the game, every single pit crew member is in fact T-posing. So it's good to see. Oh no, sorry, they're A-posing. My mistake. Minor terminology difference there. But as we wait and see, so you got to wonder, is Schmidt going to get the start that he needs to retain that pole? It's all about converting these positions now. Or are they going to get the jumps by the likes of the Red Bulls and Kjeldsen? Or maybe someone else is going to take a big shot and a big wild card out of all this?
Definitely possible, yep. And we're about to get started now.
And to see if we look us on board the field and see you've got 5 red lights, track is hot, and we are away, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's looking like a very strong start for Yannick Schmidt. Leroy is going to be holding his own, but it's Kevin is going to be jumping up the field. Simon Lekomsky, P5, now P4, is going to be sending that AlphaTauri deep into it as you see a big shuffling of the fields. That is Cameron Dowds completely down at the bottom, spun the car, it looks like. Ballas Palmer down to P19. And the lead runners of likes of Yannick Schmidt and the 2 Red Bulls are going to get a clean getaway. Kevin now fighting between themselves and Ogiano, looking for any space, looking for any opportunity to get round. Not quite going to have it. Not this time, not yet. He's going to have to bide his time a little bit more. Andre Molnar is going to be also looking for an opportunity. Peeks it around the outside. Doesn't quite get the chance to commit. Tycho Hardy is going to slot himself in there, though, just fine. And Tom Martinez is going to pop himself right next to his teammate, Mark Schluter, P14. But not without this fight being ended through turn 10. Contact being made. Bumps left, bumps right. That is a Williams being pushed off of the field by, let's say, Tycho Hardy, just getting the cars caught on one another. And the 2 going to be dropping back down in terms of pace big time.
Yeah, really, really interesting start. The top 3, amazing. Obviously, Leroy had a bit of a dodgy start into turn 1, but apart from that, he managed to sort it out as he comes through the middle sector. Also, that is a Williams off track. That's JS. He got a little bit wide at turn 12, and Tycho Hardy trying to push his way through. A bit of a push to pass there, but gets himself into 13th now, and also Ballas Palmer's going to be gaining on JSD. But big battle between Andre and Jan. And I think it was Yeltsin as well. Obviously, Andre went around the outside into turn 8. And because he took that compromising line, it allowed Jan to just shove it up the inside. Then take it around the outside into 10. He just had way more traction. So obviously got Yanni to P9. Really, really nice. Then that's Kevin and Nogiano fighting down at turn 1. We're going to go board with these. And banging wheels as they come out of turn 2 into turn 3 now. Argiana with the inside line. Now going into turn 4, but has Kevin got the pace to get him around the outside? Into turn 4 now, the break. Kevin really outbreaks Argiana, but Argiana goes up the inside and gets the move. Tony Richey also looking for a move on Kevin, but backs off, knowing that is not the right move to make at this point of time. He's going to be sitting down in P7, but could also looking to make a move sometime in this lap, just 2.5 tenths behind the Mercedes of Kevin. Lethal Sniper with a 3-second time penalty.
Well, everyone's on even keel. They've all got hard compound tyres, so there's no compound advantage to speak of. So at this stage, it's purely about on-track management, placement, and skill. I think Richey made the right move backing off, as going through a move on turns 5 to 7 is basically signing your death warrant as a driver. I'll be honest. Bahrain, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are some places to pass, and there are some places where you really, really don't. So going for a move on turns 5 through 7 is way more risky than it needs to be. Tony Richey will be better off, seeing as they have the battery advantage, just holding their time and using that eventual advantage once DRS comes in.
Yep. And on board with Jan Harday now, just getting on Daniel Yeltsin. 2 tenths between the two as they come out of turn 14 and 15. Jan go for a bit more of a tighter line on the exit, and he's gaining on Daniel. We'll go on board. Can he get through on Daniel? He's gaining. Less than a tenth now. Does he go up the inside? Yes, he does. Going to push up the inside of Daniel. Daniel's going to try and squeeze him as much as he can. Daniel then tries to take the better line into turn 1. Has to be pushed wide on the exit. Goes up the inside in turn 2. Nearly takes out Jan as they make little contact coming through turn 2 and 3. And then that's put Jan into P8 ahead of Daniel Yeltsin. Nothing Daniel could do about that at all. Jan just had a 10 times better line and way more grip. Jan looking really strong so far, making his way through the field. Next up for him is Tony Richey, up in 7th.
Well, it's keeping it clean, keeping it fast so far. Doesn't look like in all of that anyone's really got any damage through those initial scuffles, which is good to see because that's the last position you want to be in. I think in terms of race strategy here, a lot of the drivers are looking at going for maybe a hard to a medium as the standard strat, but we might see someone try to extend out the hard stint, maybe get a little bit of an overcut because everyone is on the same strategy. You have the opportunity to go for over and undercuts and potentially get some more pace out on track with the track space.
Obviously, we saw in the real life F1 yesterday that the undercuts were OP. I'm not quite sure how realistic the pit strategies are in real life to in the F1 game, but if they are realistic, then the undercut definitely works. I think Bottas pitted a couple of laps before Russell, Stroll, and the other guys ahead, and he came out actually ahead of Russell and Stroll. So I think it was Alonso as well he came out ahead of, which was really nice for him, obviously, putting himself into that top 6. So obviously, the undercut worked for him yesterday. So we're going to see if it worked for any other drivers. I'm sure some will try the undercut. Some might also try the overcut, just see what they can do. Because the guys down in the bottom 10, they're not going to really be fighting for points, especially the likes of Cameron, Yona, and Tom. So they're just going to be...
Dowds and Salsa are going to be fighting between one another. They're going to be fighting for space. Sorry to cut you off, mate, but it's all kind of kicking off, coming out of turn 3. Dowds is going to once again peek around the inside, go for a potential move. Looks like the door might have been closed a bit by Salsa there. There's no choice but to yield. And Yona Martins could be potentially joining in on the fight. The two McLarens flanking either side of the Alpine, looking for strategic options. Dowds is kind of a big question on his plate as he's looking around and waiting to see what the other two will do. Now, Yona Martins kind of has a fairly big part to play in all of this, because if Salsa can't hold their own, then they need to keep that pressure on Dowds to make sure that they don't get far. And likewise, if Salsa can't hold him back, then Martins can't keep a good pressure on Dowds into potentially making a mistake. So big stakes. Everyone's fighting tooth and nail. And Dowds is once again going to be trying their best to get their back on Salsa because Salsa's completely cooked the battery.
Yep, he has. Cameron's got really good pace render. Obviously couldn't get it done because I believe he got took out, spun around by someone at turn 1, dropped him down to 20. I thought he would do 18th. So I can see him trying to get through on Philip and Lethal, so I presume. Lethal hasn't got much pace really. Dropping outside the 1 second to Ballas. And that'll give Philip the DRS. Won't give any to Lethal Sniper. So is this going to help? Oh, wait, no, sorry. The Lethal Sniper's pitting. I thought for a second he spun around. He's retired from the session. That's going to lay Cameron Dowd through on Philip's ace. So they're heading to turn 1 side by side. Cameron up the inside. And is Philip going to try and get him back with DRS? I think he might have a go at it as they come out of turn 3 now. On board with Philip Safe has got the DRS. Cameron hasn't. Cameron's going to have to defend here. But actually, doesn't really have to defend too much. Philip just sticking behind, wanting to keep the DRS. Cameron's 1.7 seconds behind Ballast Bomber, so he's got to gain 6/10 on him before he can get back into that DRS train. But really nice move from Cameron. Unfortunate for Lethal Sniper, and unfortunate for Philip Sousa.
Yeah, this is the problem where, say, Cameron Dowd's position, he got the move, but Lethal Sniper, it actually did a worse job for him than it would have been stayed on, because now they're out of the DRS train, so they are completely vulnerable to the two McLarens behind. They've really got to defend within an inch of their life, really maximize that battery, as now Salso and Martins have an opportunity to recharge and continue to attack, where that 1.6 second gap is going to limit them.
Yep, and that's the thing. Cameron can get it into 1.3, 1.4 in the corners, but by the time he's got it down, it's going to go back up again because the DRS will be activated as they head down in towards the exit of turn 15 towards turn 1. So it's a big shame for Cameron, but if he wants to get into that 1 second, he wants to have a chance in this race, he's got to get back into that 1 second gap. Argiano goes quickest, big slide from JSD as well. Heading out to turn 15, that's going to give Ballast Palmer a little bit of an advantage as they head down this main straight. 3.5 tenths of the gap between these two, so not close on this time to make an overtake. But I can see after the pit stops, that's where the strategy comes into play. You know, strategy is key around Bahrain. And you can see Ballast being able to break a lot later than JSD. And also, Philip Sousa again on Cameron Dowd. So Cameron is in a really unfortunate position. You can see there, he's lost 4 tenths going down that main straight. You know, it's impossible to get into that 1 second gap because down the main straight, the DRS is just overpowered. Coming in towards turn 11, it's not too bad. Going down towards turn 4, depending on how close you are to the car in front, it'll be a lot better. So, you know, it's really not good for Cameron. You can see it gains 5 tenths in the middle sector, but yet again, we've got the DRS here yet again. He'll lose that time. Leroy Brown also at possible risk of losing that 1 second gap to Yannick Schmidt. It was 9 tenths as I was heading down that back straight. So Leroy's got to do some work and get himself back into that comfortable 1 second gap. It's 8 tenths now. It's not where he wants to be, but it's better than being outside the 1 second. You can see just hovering over that 9 tenths gap. Oh, and that's Harlan Marquis going wide down at turn 13. Got to allow Simon to get a bit of an advantage, but not close enough. Also, Harlan, yes again, just close enough to get that DRS into turn 14 and 15, so not too harmful for him as I head out to that final corner to begin lap 7 of the race. And you can see Leroy Brown just slowly gaining on Yannick Schmidt, 8.5 tenths. He's not gaining too much as I head down this main straight. Seems he's got a lot higher wings, than Yannick Schmidt. As I head out of turn 2 and 3 now, and you can see heading up the back straight, and you can see how much he gains. 7.5 tenths it was, 7.7, 7.3. He gained 7/100ths of a second there. So it's, you know, it's not ideal. You want to be gaining at least 1 or 2 tenths as you head down there. Martinez, though, still outside that 1 second gap to Jona Martin, so he's kind of just been a sitting duck so far in this race. Another explanation, another example of that you just can't get back into that 1 second once you're out of it. So, carry on.
Yeah, it's a real slippery slope here around Bahrain. The strategy is the key factor, but also your track limits. We saw drivers testing it in qualifying. We've got a few drivers who have racked up warnings by this stage. So yeah, Jona Martins on 1 warning. You've got Sousa on 2. You've got Leo Sniper, of course, getting that 3-second penalty and retiring from the race as a result. Lakomsky also has a warning, and JST has 2. So you've got, I believe, that between them and one of the Red Bulls as well. So that is going to be Harlan Marquis. The track limits are not to be messed with. We saw how tightly they were being policed, especially around turn 15 on the qualifying. So it's all too easy to start racking up those 3 seconds, and that's not in a position you want to be, because with the grid so tightly packed, Tony Richet losing the back of a car a little bit. Jan Halliday could potentially see a move, see a bit of opportunity. He's going to be pushing. He's going to be gaining. He's going to be within a tenth. He's going to poke it round. It's going to be a tight defense from Tony Richet, but it's not going to be enough quite yet, as they are going to come out side by side. Turns 1 and 2. Is Jan Halliday going to be able to get it? No, he's going to be sort of pushed out a little bit, or at least it looks like the door got closed, and Jan Halliday had to take to the off track in order to make sure their car stayed out of trouble. Got a warning for it as well to boot.
Yeah, not good for Jan Halliday at all. Obviously, the door closed a little bit. I think he took a bit of avoiding action. I think they could have still made it through together out to turn 3, but Jan wanted to play the safe routes, and Andre Molnar at risk as well of losing the DRS, just at the brink of that 1 second gap. Cameron Dowd, every lap getting ever so closer to breaking that 1 second, Gets to around turn 13. He's in within a second, and then he gets down into 14 and 15, and he just starts to lose a little bit of time because he's got absolutely no ERS to use whatsoever. And that's bit of a collision. Jonah Martins and Tom Martinez down at turn 10, the exit turn, taking into towards 11 now. Not sure what happened between those. I think it might have been a little bit of a spin, or half spin at least, from Jonah Martins, which put him at a disadvantage now. But Tom Martinez at an advantage because he's got the DRS that he wanted for the past 7 laps.
Yeah, he's got that DRS that he wanted, but to what effect will it really be useful? He's stuck behind Jonah Martins, and he knows as soon as he gets out of that situation, then he's just going to immediately get the counter attack from the McLaren all the same. So unless they can semi-agree to leapfrog each other to get themselves to the back end of the pack again, I don't see how this is going to be useful for Martinez, and especially considering he's not looking like he's making up the time.
No, he's not. He's struggling. 1.7 seconds is the gap between him and his teammate up in 17th. Really, really not good for the McLaren pair. Like we said before, second in the championship so far, 3 points behind Alpine. Alpine, however, are going to be taking, 10 points, I believe, home. I'm not quite sure with the numbers, but obviously Gianpietro in 5th. And McLaren's nowhere. And Jonah Martins gets a 3-second time penalty. Not what he wanted at all. This now puts Tom Martinez in a net 18 position. Not ideal, but it is what it is. And we can possibly see Jonah Mart as well retire at this point. We've seen Lethal Sniper do the same. He's got the 3-second. He's basically 5 seconds back off the field, realistically, after penalties. So, is there much point in racing? We don't know. Safety cars could come out, yes. That'd help him. But then if he's got the penalty, that's just going to drop him straight back down again. And Tom Martinez gaining him to about 2.5 tenths as a heading towards turn 11 now. And you can see right in the back of Jonah Martin's car as a head through. And Jonah 2.2 seconds off Philip now. So they're losing time and time and time. But Cameron Dade, however, got himself back into that gap of 1 second, 6.5 tenths for him. So really, really good for Cameron Dade to now getting himself back into that train. Philip Sousa at a risk of being out of the train as they head down into turn 15. And you can see now, let's see, does Tom able to get through on Jonah Martins to come out at turn 15. He's going to be charging after Jonah down the main straight now as they head on to the 11th lap of the race. No, 10th lap of the race for them. Jonah completely moving out the way there. And I think he knows that Jonah's going to go. Tom's going to go for it into turn 1. Lets off completely, and that's Jonah through. Bogdan Moldovan fighting with Tycho Hardy into turn 4 now. Bogdan going to take the outside line. Tycho up the inside. Bogdan breaks it a little bit earlier. Tries to get a bit of switch back into turn 5. Nearly hits the back of Tycho Hardy as they head through in towards turn 5 and 6 now, but still not close enough as they head now down in towards turn 8, and they're actually at risk yet again of losing that DRS. 1.064 for Tycho to Andre Molnar, and now everyone also starting to gain and lose a little bit of time. You're either right close behind or out of that DRS. That's not what you want. Tycho with the DRS out, so luckily gets back into that 1 second gap to Andre Molnar. Mark Schluter in that top 10, I believe, last week. He was running up in the top 5, but unfortunately lost it all and dropped all the way down.
Yeah, looking around, it looks like we might be seeing the grid start to split into 2 packs. You've got that compression up the front, that rarefaction in the middle, as you have Tycho and Andre Molnar. Both are hovering around that 1 second. Molnar on 1.2, well and truly out of it. Mark Schluter also teetering on the edge of having the DRS to Yeltsin up ahead, but loses the rear a little bit, and that's going to be all it takes. It's not going to be in DRS. It's gone. Schluter also doesn't have any battery, so any hopes of catching up to that front pack are for naught, though. But Gianpietro is also teetering on that 1 second, so everyone's starting to feel the pressure up and down the field.
They are, and the last thing you want to do is lose the DRS round here, the DRS round here, because it's really, really bad if you don't. Gianpietro, you can see just 9.5 tenths back. He should be able to gain a little bit of time if he can burn as he heads into that middle the middle part of the first sector. And you can see just itching over that apex, not able to clip the apex like the other drivers are able to do. So, not ideal for Gianpietro. Could also be wise losing a little bit of time on the cars ahead. And you can see the top 4 all within comfortable DRS range, so they're pretty much sorted, I think, for the remainder of this stint. Obviously, when we go into the second stint, we could see people undercut and overcut. That could be when we see the lead change. I think as of now, the lead isn't going to change at all whatsoever. When the pit stops come, that can be totally different. We could see Gianpietro in the lead. You never know, because if you get the pit stop wrong around here, it can really, really be devastating, because if you're pitting onto, well, obviously no one's pitting onto hards because we're all on the hards already, but if you used to pit onto hard round here, go out onto the circuit for your first lap, you're going to lose a good second or two in that first couple of corners, because it's so difficult to put the pair down when you're on a cold hards coming out turn. When obviously you're going to be on the medium still, you'll lose a little bit of time, but not as much as you would if you was pitting onto the hards coming out of the first stint.
Yeah, and speaking of tyres, I think we're going to see that pit window start to come just after the halfway mark, because looking at the telemetry here, it looks like the tyres are roughly about 40% wear at this stage, so 40% on the hards. Pretty aggressive wear rate on this track, all things considered. The rear one you want to watch for is the rear left. So that's the one that's getting the most punishment throughout this circuit. It looks like, say, 41% in the case of Simon Lakomsky. Looks like you got a few other outliers as well. So Kevin, 41. Tony Richet doing a bit better on the tyre conservation, is only just ticked onto 40. You've got Jan Halliday, though, 37. So doing a real good job of balancing the tyre wear. And I think just squeezing out an extra lap on the hards so that you can maximize the mediums potential might be a crucial benefactor here.
Definitely. You know, the pit stops are a main thing around here, because obviously, you know, we've seen it's very difficult to get overtakes. So the pit stop is where you're going to be getting those overtakes. So, you know, obviously a disadvantage for one of the Red Bull drivers is that they're both together. So obviously Leroy probably has the call to pick first. He probably will pick first. So it just depends on what Harlem's ideas are, because if they're together in voice channel, maybe they're going to talk through a strategy. And that's shooter off. Where's that? Then at turn 13, he's either made contact with the car or he's just lost the rear coming out of 13. I thought that was a DNF for a second as he went into 13, but luckily recovers. And now that puts Ferrari's day from bad to even worse. 17th and 19th now, doing even worse than McLaren. So that's really not a day that Ferrari want.
Yeah, this is not a Ferrari day. I think it's that's going to be a potential retirement in the pit lane, it looks like. Schluter heads into the pits. Yeah, and that is just run true. So yeah, the yellows came out. I think he simply lost it coming out turn 13. I don't see any damage on any other surrounding cars that suggest a potential collision. So I think it was just simply they overcooked it on turn 13, lost the rear, followed it round. Luckily had a lot of runoff, but there's no damage. But by that stage, the damage in terms of the race was already done.
Yep, and because Mark was in that 10th position, it's now put Andre Molnar 3 seconds behind Daniel Yeltsin, which is just, it's really, really bad, because he's not going to get back into that train. It's near enough impossible, because he's not got the ultimate pace. They've got DRS as an advantage, which helps you probably 3 or 4 tenths per lap. So, you know, it's going to be so difficult for him to get close to that. So then that puts Tycho, Hardy and Bogdan and Jay and the others below at a good advantage, because they can wait and wait and wait and then charge and get through with the DRS and get through on him and put himself into that top 10. So currently I can see 10th down to 15th all being able to fight for a top 10 position. And obviously first to not, they're all going to be fighting for that top 9. So those guys could see some changes in position once the pit stops arise. Obviously I should see people pitting around maybe lap 16, lap 17. I can't see it being much earlier than that. And Andre Molnar being overtaken by Tycho Hardy down at turn 1, as we saw. That, you know, was inevitable. Of course it was going to happen. Bogdan's also at that 1 second gap now, so that's not ideal. And he's lost out to JSD as they come out at turn 1. I'm going to go on board, and you can see Bogdan just right behind the rear of that Williams as they head out of turn 3. And you can see Bogdan no DRS, so all that allows Ballas Palmer to get through. This is heartbreak for Bogdan Moldovan. Lost 3 positions within a couple of corners, and this is going to allow Cameron Dowd to get a bit of an opportunity. But Bogdan, fighting back into turn 6 and 7. Really nice. Ballas going to go on the outside.